Just to let you know, right from the beginning, this is a review video about this product which was sent to me free by Revopoint to do exactly that. Hi everybody, so 3D scanners. Now I was always of the opinion that they had three main problems with them. One, they didn't really work, they weren't that good. Two, they were stupidly expensive. And three, about the only use for them was to copy your favourite Disney character, print it out and avoid the stupid fees they charge for it. Then I discovered that they were being described as the garage mechanic's essential tool, and I thought, well, that's a bit weird. So I had a look into it, and it turns out what garage mechanics are doing is scanning the entire car. And when you think about it, of course that makes sense, because if you're scanning the entire car, if you want a bit that you can no longer get hold of, well, you have a perfect copy of it and you can print it out. If you're doing something like designing a whole new suspension system and you want to fit it into the car, you can guarantee it's going to fit, and that's really awesome, because making parts that will fit an existing real-world object can actually be a super pain. Just getting the holes in the right position is a nightmare and leads to many failed attempts, or at least for me it does. That made me start to question what it was I thought. Now, there are alternatives to 3D scanners. I mean, there's photogrammetry. I tried that about a year ago and it really was pants what you can get. It wasn't good at all. Unless you have a supercomputer, you have a real challenge. Now, I was pondering all of this stuff when Revopoint, bless the hearts, sent me this. It's their new Inspire model and it's due out today, and they sent me this to do an unboxing, a review, and have a look and see how a 3D scanner works. So let's get it out of the box. So that's it out of the box, and sure enough it's a nice looking thing. I mean, Revopoint, they began as a bunch of PhDs doing things on Kickstarter, and this, which is their flagship product, is on Kickstarter. There's a Kickstarter campaign starting today with this. And it comes in a pretty box, well packaged, lots of little bits and pieces in there. We've got this little circular thing with markers on it to help it register. A little turntable you can put your stuff on, so you don't have to hold this if you don't want to. A whole lot of other dots and something called their magic marker, which is a bit of plastic with some marker discs on, a calibration disc plate, and a whole load of bits and pieces of cables. Just kind of what you'd expect, really. One thing I do like actually is the connection cable has got this screw-in old attachment here to hold that cable in firmly, because those things, especially if you're handling them, they do break. So that's a nice little design thing that I thought was very cool. This is extendable, incidentally, just pulls in and pushes out, so you can change the height of that. And it collapses down to be quite a neat little handle. And if you look on the front there, what we've got is an infrared reflector, because the thing works on infrared, and then a couple of detectors, and then we get an RGB camera, and then 3 LED lights to help light things up if it's all a bit dark. And the way this works is it shines an infrared light out and it creates moire fringes. And then the camera can measure the distance of those fringes and their separation, and it creates a dot in space. The more dots it creates, the better resolution it's going to have, and that's called the cloud point. The more these cloud it can create and then join up in the software, the more accurate the representation is. This is supposed to be engineering grade with a resolution of 0.2 millimeters. The space that this can cover is 50 millimeters to 2 meters cube. That's what this is designed at. So if you want to be doing things like bees, then this is not the thing for you. They do these for much smaller devices, and they do them for bigger spaces as well, but this one is directly at that kind of a mid-range, which suits me just fine, because I want it mid-range. Now, it is quite an adaptable device actually. It will work on a mobile phone, it'll work on a laptop, it'll work on a PC. It has Windows software and Mac software and Android software. And the minute I saw Android, I thought, oh, that's interesting. I plugged it into a tablet and it actually works on a tablet just as well, which I thought was really cool. So there's a whole load of devices that'll work on. I thought that was cool because I'm blind as a bat, and staring at my phone, what a pain. But if I want to be mobile with it, staring at a tablet, well, I can cope with that really easily. So having that multifunction I thought was very cool actually. So it is a multifunctional device. It outputs in PLY, OBJ and STL, so STL is great for me. But on the technical side of things, I mean, I'm not really that interested so much on the technical side of stuff. I mean, I don't want to spend my evenings in the pub discussing the merits of various hammers. All I'm really interested in is, will it drive a nail? And I have the same view of this sort of stuff. I'm not going to put some oranges and candles around it, light some incense and worship it. I'm going to see how it fits in my workflow, and that's what it's all about. Because if it doesn't fit in your workflow, well, it's just a bit of junk. If it fits in your workflow and assists what it is you're doing and it's easy to use, then it's a valuable piece of kit, and that's what I'm interested in when it comes to looking at something like this. Will it do that? Now, it'll do that to a point based on the price point, obviously, and what we're looking for as well is a good job at a reasonable price. And if we can balance those things along with each other, then that techie stuff that people get so uptight about kind of falls into place anyway, or at least that's my view. Okay, so with all those people busy throwing a rope over a beam so they can lynch me, tough, I just see it that way. Now we want to do something with this, of course, so what we're going to do is connect it up to a computer and scan something. Now I have a little bit of a sort of steampunk gothic dark side, and what I'm going to scan is this. It's a fox skull. We're going to see how it copes with an organic shape and whether we can reproduce the size of that shape sufficiently to 3D print it in a replica that looks very similar to the skull that I started with. So that's what we're going to actually do. I think that's an interesting challenge for a static challenge. I do want to take it out because it is mobile, so that makes sense to be able to do that. And of course I visit a lot of museums, so being able to scan something in a museum is going to be really awesome from where I come from. But that's quite a lot, so we're going to do the mobile one in a different video. In this one we're going to have a look at the software, the static setup, and whether it can do an accurate reproduction. Anyway, let's get this plugged in. Okay, we're all set up and running, and it's on the tablet because I thought it would be kind of fun. Now, so many companies make their products that you have to buy their extra bits and pieces. There's actually a nightmare. Revopoint have gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that this is really adaptable. The camera at the moment, it's working off the Revopoint battery that comes as part of the mobile kit, but any battery bank is going to do that. So any power supply will be able to run that camera, which is fantastic. It will also run from the mobile. If you've got it plugged into your computer, it will run from the computer. I've set it up like this for versatility. I also tried this on an iPad, which I happen to have kicking around, and it works fine on an iPad. I have an iPhone, it works fine on the iPhone. I have an Android phone, but it's fine on the phone. And here we have a normal tablet with it working fine on the tablet, which is really kind of cool. Because I'm of the opinion, pretty much like Apple actually, that if you can randomly stab a bit of software with your finger and get it going, then you're on a winner. And that's what happens here. This is RevoScan 5.2. I basically hit the app. It flashed up a screen saying, is this okay? Press to continue, which is what I did. Later, if I want to get into it, then of course I can start looking at all those issues. But for the start, all I really want to do is get something going and get a scan out, and it turns out if I waggle my finger at this 2 or 3 times, then it just works. We will do a video going more in depth on the actual software itself, but as a demonstration of what this can do, well, you can be up and running with this in, oh, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. Anyway, let's start the scan. And we're off. It goes green when it's a lovely scan, and it'll give you a notification when the tracking's out. So I've got it on the turntable at the moment. I've actually got it in body settings. I should have used marker settings because of all the markers, but I've got it in body settings, so it'll be fine. Anything extraneous I can actually pull out in the edit, but it is now busy scanning my fox skull. I appreciate it's a bit scant on detail, but life is a journey, you learn by doing, and that's exactly what we do. It's exactly what I do anyway. And of course I did that single scan straight away. That was the beauty of it. It's really easy to use, but of course we want a better job than that, and it turns out that you want 360 frames per scan rotation, or if you like, 1 frame per degree. If you're doing a large object, that's when you'd move down. When it's showing green, then that's brilliant because you've got good distance. If it goes red, you're too near or too far. And of course the motion is relative. Doesn't matter if the thing is spinning or if you're walking around with it holding it in your hand. The scanning software that we use is a combination of studio software that was separate and scanning software that was separate. They put it both together, so now you both scan and edit at the same time. With that skull, what I did was take 3 scans, and then I merged the 3 scans into a single STL file. And you can export, remember, in a bulk of files, and that STL file created me a fox skull head. That fox skull head we've sent to the 3D printer. Okay, and there it is actually printed out. So let's see if it fits. Now I'll probably scan the lower jaw at another time and put that up on Thingiverse, because I'm definitely going to put this on Thingiverse. So if you want a copy of it, go there, you'll find a copy. And it's a really nice fit. The teeth mesh beautifully and the jaw sits in nicely into the skull. If you do want a copy of this so you can judge for yourself about the quality of the scan, then it is on Thingiverse, and the link for that is in the description below. So there we go. Now I'm an utter noob at this, so pretending to be a technical expert is not for me. What I'm interested in and what I'm trying to talk about is the use of it. Now it was certainly easy to use from a first go. I mean, the software, it's very intuitive, fits on a whole range of things, and if you want in-depth analysis of the software, well, there's about 1 billion YouTube videos out there, and no doubt you're going to be inundated with them when this comes out, because Revopoint has sent this to a whole load of people. So in my mind, it's always a worry about what else can I add, rather than just trotting out the same old rubbish that everybody trots out. I mean, I've done that because Revopoint want me to do it, and they give you a list of things that you need to say, and it's on that list. But also, what else can I add? And I think the idea of somebody picking this up for the first time, which is exactly what I've done, and what their experience of that was, is of value. At least that's what I think. And picking this up for the very first time, I found it stunningly easy to use, actually. The software installed, no problem at all across a range of devices. It really was 3 finger presses with the basic settings to get a pretty decent result. Of course, it's just like we did with 3D printing. When I started the 3D printing, I hadn't got a clue. When I started this, I haven't got a clue. So, was it easy to use? Yeah. Was it easy to get off the ground? Yeah. There's just stuff to learn. Of course there is, and we're going to be learning that as we use it, and we go through that journey of using this thing. But I am excited to use it, because the result it gave, I'm pleasantly surprised at what a nice result that actually is. I mean, looks like it's supposed to do. It's a nice organic shape, so it's difficult to get a scan of it. It meshes really well with an original part that we've got. So I'm pretty pleased actually with how that worked, and I will be exploring this a bit more, particularly as we said, in the mobile application of it. So visit to a museum and see if we can scan something we couldn't otherwise do, which would be really cool and a great use. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.